far we have come. Not me, I'm a 7-year-old. How far engineering has come is wild. Hey crew, I've got the key, which looks really cool, to that Ferrari 296 GTB. We are going to take it for a drive, but first, let's check out how it looks on the inside and outside. This new model is slotting in between the F8 and the SF90 in Ferrari's lineup as a mid-engine plug-in hybrid supercar, and the face does have some SF90 vibes to it, with this carbon fiber directional piece integrated there, functional cooling, carbon fiber side splitters, and integrated brake ducts underneath the LED DRLs and turn signals. Just outside of those are projector LED headlights. This model is painted in Rosso Imola. It's a deeper shade of red, and it does accent the curves quite nicely. At the side, we find a set of what look to be more traditional 5 split spoke wheel designs in 20-inch size, wrapped in Michelin Palette Sport 4S tires, 245 section front, and 305 at the rear. Within those wheels are standard carbon ceramic brakes, 15.7-inch front rotors, 14.1 at the rear, and they're clamped on by these black painted calipers. There's carbon fiber for the lower sill, Scuderia Ferrari shields in yellow, large air intakes, and a subtle roof-mounted spoiler. Stepping back to look at the profile, now I see more 308 GTB to this design, with the shape of the back pillar, the wedge of the nose, and the pronounced wheel arches. I really like the profile view. It's my favorite one on this car. And then as we get to the back, I see both old and new here. The old of the 250LM rear end lip, and the new of some SF90 styling traits, like the slender LED taillights and turn signals. Then above those, we've got tinted back glass as a partition for the 3.0-liter twin-turbo V6 and electric motor. The rear end has some open meshing to it. There are center exit exhaust ports and a huge diffuser down low. In photos, wasn't sold on this car. In person, it has massive presence. My question for you though, do you like the direction of design for Ferrari? Or are you feeling some nostalgia for their older designs? Let me know in the comments, and now let's check out the interior. Opening up by inserting my hand like so, and then pulling the door like I would any other door. I mean, to be fair, that is classic Ferrari. No dihedral doors, no scissor doors. Looking inside at this red and black interior with black leather for the headliner, black leather for the Daytona design seats with red contrast stitching and red leather stripes across them. They are power adjusting. You can pull them forward by lifting up on this tab and finding just a little bit of storage here with a netted pouch. If you want more storage, press this button here to open up the front trunk, which is quite large. It's 7 cubic feet of space. I was able to fit myself inside. As far as these other buttons, this one opens up the fuel door on the right-hand side, and this one your charge port door that is right here. You can also replenish this battery in just a couple hours with a regular 110 household outlet. There's leather up top in the door with red stitching, carbon fiber inserts, suede wrapping, more leather and stitching down low, and an upgraded JBL sound system. This is a carbon fiber Ferrari tread plate. You've got aluminum foot pedals. Your door mirror controls are here, and you do get power adjusting and power folding door mirrors. For me to step inside, I'm going to rest my bottom momentarily on this suede wrapped sill. Drivers get a carbon fiber and leather steering wheel with red contrast stitching and a flat bottom. Feels amazing in the hands, as do these massive carbon fiber paddles on the back of the wheel. They are column mounted. You've got everything on your steering wheel, like your turn signals here, this controller for your infotainment system that, yes, is within the digital instrument cluster, and that includes wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Now, controlling the infotainment system does take a little getting used to because there are lots of different menus, but thankfully the capacitive touch controls do work pretty well, and there's some hotkeys in the back of the wheel for quick adjustments to volume or to seek the music along. Your headlight adjustments are here, wiper controls there. Here's your traditional Manatino drive selection and traction control and suspension adjustments, and then over here is your e-Manatino to change up your e-motor modes. Your start-stop button is just a capacitive touch controller, and there are more capacitive touch controls for your climate adjustments. There's some carbon fiber around the gauge cluster, red and black leather up on the dashboard, a 296 GTB badge, and then passengers get their own screen to change up the music or navigation, or they can watch your performance data in action. Surrounding that screen is carbon fiber, and then there's a lot more here on the console where we find a cup holder, wireless charging pad, and then this is interesting. So they tried to make the gear selection similar in look to an old Ferrari with a gated manual, and I don't have to tell you that doing this with your finger is not as engaging as throwing a giant aluminum lever, but it's cool that they put in the effort. Your window switches are here, slot for your key, storage, 2 USB-A ports. Visibility is compromised at that pillar, but it's good out the back. No blind spot monitoring or rear cross traffic, but you are driving a bright red Ferrari, so people are probably going to be looking out for you. Headroom, for me at 6 feet, is enough to clear the roof, so get the thumbs up. And this cabin overall is just such a sense of occasion, from the sumptuous leathers to the carbon fiber to the high tech to this steering wheel. I can't think of another production car that makes you feel more like a racing driver. And now it's time to take the 296 out for a drive. All right, let's fire it up with this capacitive touch button. Man, those chimes are loud, especially as a contrast to the silent startup of this vehicle in EV mode. It's like, whoa, all right, chimes, I get it. I think we should return at first to what I had said about the steering wheel, because I made the bold claim that no production car makes me feel more like a racing driver than this one. And I was thinking of the F1 steering wheel when I said that, because you look at an F1 steering wheel and the average person's going to go, what? And you look at this wheel, and with all of the different options for you to choose from, it seems overly complex. You do get used to it, you know where things are after a while, but I guess it's kind of cool and racery that they put you in charge of something so intricate. So yes, that's the wheel. Before we head out, you can see that the battery is full right now. It says we've got a range of 15 miles. And that sounds pretty good, but that's actually according to the Euro cycle, which scales things differently than the US. Here in the US, that really translates to 8 to 10 miles of electric range. And here, grayed out right now, we are going to press the E-Drive button. There we go. It's going to change up the gauge cluster, and that means we're going to start in fully EV mode and then pull back here to go into reverse. That brings up a high-resolution camera system with trajectory lines. I'm also going to turn this dial to get those wipers to work and scoot on out of here. Now, this is one great thing about column-mounted shifters. They're always where you expect them to be, whereas ones that are on the wheel, you're like, if I need to use the paddle to actually go into first gear, like Lamborghini vehicles, I was just thinking about the Lamborghini Urus, you've got to find the right paddle on the wheel, and if you've gone more than just one single lock, that could be a little confusing. Turning radius test. You know, that's kind of a wide arc, especially in comparison to the McLaren Artura I was just in. Turn signal test. These signals are so interesting because they're not at the same rhythm. It's like it speeds up and slows down, almost like a heartbeat. And now for the world famous horn test. Hopefully I don't scare that jogger there. They've got headphones on, they're fine. Okay. Feels rather traditional. I half expected this car to just yell in Italian, Mossa, which means move. Now on to the powertrain as the rain really starts falling. We've got a 3.0 liter twin-turbocharged V6. Well, technically it's 2.999 something, and that's where the 2.9 of the 296 GTB name comes from. The 6 is for the cylinder count, and the GTB stands for Grand Touring Berlinetta. Anyway, 3.0 liter twin-turbo V6 we're going to round up here, and it is mated to an electric motor that's actually sandwiched between the engine and the 8-speed dual-clutch automatic gearbox, sending all the power to just the rear tires. And how much power is there, Miles? Well, when everything is working in concert, you have 819 horsepower and 546 pound-feet of torque. But when we're just in the e-drive mode, we're using a fraction of that. And you can use this at speeds up to 80 miles per hour for as long as the charge holds out, which admittedly is not a long period of time. You can recharge it on the go by just hitting this button here, and we'll kick on that gas engine. But I found myself just using the e-motor mode when I'm sneaking in and out of my neighborhood so I don't disturb anyone. Though from a commuting standpoint, I could in theory see this working. You use the e-mode all the way until you get to the highway. Then you go hybrid, you kick on the gas engine, recharge the battery up until the point you get off the highway, and then you go back to EV mode. That could work if the highway is close enough for you. And I do love how in EV mode, it is just silky smooth. Unlike most plug-in hybrids, there are no regen braking settings, and in EV mode, it will charge the battery a little bit, you can see that here, and slow us, but they're not things that you can adjust. If I do force on that gas engine, then the 8-speed comes into play, and it's a typical dual clutch where the last little bit of speed as you're coming up to a stop, or first bit when you're getting off the line, there's a little bit of clunkiness to the transmission, but then when you're at speed, it becomes very smooth. And that gas engine, now that it's on, that twin-turbo V6, makes a pleasant noise when you're on throttle. But then when you're coasting, it takes a back seat and doesn't really disturb the quiet of this car. You get tire noise coming in, a little bit of that road noise, wind noise is quelled considerably. And so the 296 GTB makes for a pretty great commuter. The ride quality in normal mode is fine enough. You don't get a lot of the shiver from road bumps in through to the chassis and then to your body. But I can make it even better. When I go here and hit this button, we enter the bumpy road mode. And now, though I heard some of those bumps, the dampening is so much more pleasant. And the 296 GTB enters that echelon of daily driver supercar where the McLaren Artura and the Acura NSX reside, which is so very nice. But now we want to see how the 296 GTB, with all of its hybrid power, is as a performance machine. All right, we made it out here to our fun road, and on the way, we managed to fully replenish the battery, which is convenient because we're going to need that for what we're about to do, which is to change up the e-Manatino mode. We're going to skip right over performance and go into qualifying, which is full force all the time, and then the regular Manatino will go from sport to race. From here, while we're sitting here, while I've got my race box set up here, we might as well do a launch control, or what Ferrari calls performance start. For that, last step would be to go to manual mode and then to press forward on the PS button. This is going to be for our real world 0 to 60 test, and because it's real world, we are facing a bit of an uphill. Here we go, performance start, foot on the brake, hitting the throttle, building up boost, letting go. Oh, good heavens! 3.1 seconds on an uphill with a rear-wheel drive supercar. The transformation is complete, folks. This is a different animal now. You have the e-motor and all the power instantly available while the twin-turbocharged V6 spools up, builds that boost, and then lets it fly. And that's why independent tests have seen 0 to 60 well under 3 seconds. now that this twin-turbo V6 is making a statement, boy, what a statement it is! I really do think I hear a little V12 in it. In the same way that you drive an Audi RS3 with its 5-cylinder and you get the sense, the essence of the V10 that's in the R8 and Lamborghini Huracan. And that is such a pleasant surprise, given that I'm just hopping out of the McLaren Artura that also had a twin-turbo V6, also in a plug-in hybrid setup, and it really didn't sound good. Oh my gosh! I don't know if I've driven a quicker car than this. And speaking of race car stuff, how cool are the shift lights on the wheel? And the action from these paddles is ultra satisfying. And the shifts themselves are lightning quick. And like the transmission, the steering is immediate and precise. And while it is an electrically assisted power steering rack that doesn't have the same level of communication as a hydraulic rack like you find in the Artura, the chassis is so communicative that that's all the feedback my body needs. And the steering then just directs the car. And the turn-in is so quick because this platform is shorter than in the Ferrari F8. It therefore feels more playful. All the while, it's stable in corners because you have the weight down low from the battery pack and from the ultra-wide V of these cylinder banks. It's 120 degrees, so they could lower this engine in the chassis. Bring down that center of gravity. And give you confidence, along with these immense carbon ceramic brakes that truly do put the kibosh on forward momentum. To have a car this capable, be able to be manipulated with this much assurance as a driver, is so impressive. It's like taking something infinitely complex and boiling it down to a level that a 7-year-old could understand. And yes, I am calling myself a 7-year-old in this situation. But that's just the kind of metaphor this car deserves. For the performance threshold that it has. What a machine! Feeling that instant electric push, then blend with that screaming twin-turbo V6, taking it all the way up to the 8,500 RPM red line. If this is the future of supercars, I can take it. I'm gonna miss the NA powertrains. But what we have here is masterful. How far we have come. Not me, I'm a 7-year-old. How far engineering has come is wild. Ferraris just are built different, aren't they? Oh, I could do this all day. Marfinnugan, that's fast. And while that may not be a word, that is going to lead me into the miles per hour word of the day, which for this Ferrari 296 GTB is homogenized, meaning to blend or make uniform. And I'm talking about the seamless integration of electrification and twin-turbo V6 power and how that is just delivered in this incredible performance machine. It is a homogenized, uniformly awesome drive. And now, while we take a bit of a breather, go back into sport and hybrid modes, let's talk some specs that we haven't yet shared. The top speed of the 296 GTB is 205 miles per hour. The fuel economy is 20 MPG combined, 47 combined MPGe or equivalent, and I mentioned we've got 8 to 10 miles of electric range. Charging from your regular 110 household outlet should take no more than a couple hours, and that's really convenient. The starting price for the 296 GTB, it's about $323,000, and that means that this is not the entry-level Ferrari. That F8 at $281,000 may be bigger in size than this, but that is your entry-level Ferrari. And then the SF90 at $512,000 is above this. But as we look outside Ferrari, we'll see how that price matches up. Though the plug-in hybrid supercar segment is still in its infancy, there is at least one other competitor outside of Ferrari, and I've already mentioned this vehicle a couple times now. It's the McLaren Artura. It does start quite a bit less expensive, $237,500. It makes 671 horsepower, so quite a bit less power. Gets to 60 a little slower, 3 seconds. The top speed is the same, 205 miles per hour, and the all-electric range is just a couple miles longer than this 296 GTB. Outside of plug-in hybrid supercars, we can go low displacement. There is the Maserati MC20. That's the least expensive at $216,000. Makes 621 horsepower, gets to 60 in 2.9 seconds, has a top speed of 202 miles per hour and fuel economy of 17 combined. Or there is the high displacement of the Lamborghini Huracan Technica, which starts around $245,000, makes 630 horsepower, gets to 60 in 2.7 seconds, has a top speed of 200 miles per hour and fuel economy of just 15 combined. And then I feel like you gotta mention Ferrari's own F8 Tributo as a competitor to this, because it starts at $281,000, 40 grand less than this. It makes 710 horsepower, it gets to 60 in 2.8 seconds, has a top speed of 212 miles per hour and fuel economy of 16 combined? Not bad for a V8. And now, to rule two of those options out right away within this competitive discussion, the Maserati MC20. Yes, it's the least expensive, and yes, it is actually very beautiful, but it feels slower than the cars that I'm talking about here, and it's not nearly as involving to drive. And then Ferrari's own F8 Tributo. When you've got the budget for a couple $100,000 to $300,000 for a supercar, and probably more when you get into the options, what's an additional 40 grand for the F8 versus this? And you're getting quite a bit more. Not only the power, but it's way more intriguing to look at. It's significantly quicker, and having that all-electric range does give this car some variability, in addition to the fact that though it's a twin-turbo V6 versus a V8 in the F8, it sounds better. So in my mind, you rule those two out right away. If you want to stay within the plug-in hybrid realm, but you don't have the extra $90-ish thousand for this one, don't beat yourself up, because that McLaren Artura is fantastic. It is probably just as engaging to drive as this 296 GTB. It's also quite a looker, maybe not as eye-catching as this vehicle, but still beautiful in its own right. It makes plenty of power, and it's very livable. The only knock on that one, it's twin-turbo V6, just, it's like whatever in terms of a soundtrack. On the opposite end of the soundtrack game, if you aren't obsessed with plug-in hybrid or maybe pushing the envelope for futuristic technology, there's the Lamborghini Huracan Technica. Very quick, exciting to look at, incredible to hear, plenty of performance, it's dynamic, and it's less expensive. So that is one way you could go about it. However, if you are hooked on what this technology can deliver in terms of daily usability, being able to coast in and out of your neighborhood silently is very attractive. And then in addition to that, having the instantaneousness of electric torque then being carried on by the power of a twin-turbo V6 that sounds incredible. The look of this car is striking. It's very livable with the suspension, the ride quality here. It's a compelling package. My two critiques, because nothing in life is perfect. One, this thing is very expensive, and I wonder if a little bit of that price might not just be for the Ferrari badge. The rest of it very well made up by the performance and the styling, the technology and all that, but just a little bit for that prancing horse badge. And two, these capacitive touch controls, the more I've used them, the more they have frustrated me. It's not that they're not responsive necessarily, but I just can't seem to swipe them just right. And every time I go to turn on this left turn signal, I seem to activate the voice command button here, and then it's like listening for me to talk, and then have to go in and cancel it. I digress. Some finessing to be done here with these controls, and the price is definitely not for everyone. Otherwise, this is an insane vehicle, and I'm curious now which you guys would choose. Let me know in the comments. Would you go with the 296 GTB? Would you go with the MC20? Would you go with the McLaren Artura? Would you go with the Lamborghini Huracan Technica? Or would you have the Ferrari F8? And I certainly hope you've enjoyed this POV drive review. If you did, please like, comment, and share the video. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell to get notified. And I'll see you again next time.